Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to this spoiler vlog of House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. This is the first time that I am reading through this, so please join me on the journey of all my thoughts and feelings as I go through this book. I also did a series of this when I read A Court of Thorns and Roses. I will put the links below if you guys are interested in them and want to have a watch. If you have not read this book, then please click off. But if you have not read this book and you still want to watch this video, please be aware that there is spoilers. I just want to put that out there right now because I'm going to be capturing all my thoughts and feelings on this book as we journey through A House of Earth and Blood. And yes, I do not have a fancy hardback version. I am one of the minority, it would seem, that does not have one. But if I love this, then I feel like I will invest money into the hardback so that at least I have a matching one to House of Sky and Breath. Because yes, even though I have not read this one, I did pre-order House of Sky and Earth because Sky and Breath because here we are. I'm also starting this vlog full of a really horrible sinus infection. So hopefully as this video goes on whilst I'm reading this book, I progressively get better and do not sound like this. And also my brain will process things a bit better and I won't be muddling up my words as much because I'm so bunged up at the moment that my brain is just kind of like mashed potato. So here we are. This is the intro and the start of my journey into this. Hello. This is my first check-in on Crescent City. So there's a lot of world building going on here. I'm absolutely loving it. I really like Bryce. I also want to say that I'm probably going to go through an array of emotions if you watched my ACOTAR ones. And I'll probably like all the characters that I'm meant to hate because that's who I am. And then I come to the realization that I hate them and that I was a fool. So if that does happen, just warning you now that that is the thing that is probably going to happen. Also, so I love Bryce. I love Danica. I love that like she is the like head of the pack and she's a female. I like that. I like that empowering side of things. It makes a change because whenever like werewolves and things, I mean it's not werewolf. Sorry, wolves. The leader of the pack is always generally a guy. It's always portrayed in that way. So I'm really enjoying the fact that Danica is head of that. I really like Danica and Bryce's relationship as well. Like their friendship, I really like it. I really like their understanding of each other. And it's a really fun time. I'm really enjoying this so far. I do know that it's going to get to the stage I'm going to pronounce names wrong as well. So I apologize in advance for wrong names. But I'm only 43 pages in. So we really are at the start of a long journey. We still have all of this to go. I'm finding the writing quite small as well, which for a slow reader, it does take that extra time to obviously read. But I am also hoping to tab this, but I must say that this is quite a quick read for me. Like, I'm really enjoying it. The world building isn't like slow to me. It's quite fast paced. Like, I'm really enjoying it. So that's a good sign. I'm also quite like angry at myself that I've not picked this up until now. So it's good that this is now being picked up and we're sitting and divulging it together. But I am going on reading sprints tonight with Catherine, Siobhan and Marluce, and we are going to be doing some reading. So I want to get a chunk of this done. I also want to get a chunk of this done. Oh, my addled, stupid, ill brain is not working. But yeah, I want to get a chunk of this done and I want to have better things to report to you instead of that I enjoy Bryce and Danica as characters, because there's just so much world building going on and so many names have already been thrown into this that I'm just trying to remember who is who. I think I remember Connor, he's one of the pack. I feel like he's a love to hate character. I feel like he's going to be very Marmite. At the moment, I don't know how I feel about him. I don't even know how big a role he's going to be either. But I do predict that he is going to be a Marmite one. So I'm either going to love him or I'm going to hate him, I feel. But yeah, I'm just kind of trying to get into grips with who the characters are. And yeah, the world building. So it's not a massive fantastical update yet, but I just wanted to come here and give you like a little check-in to just kind of how I'm feeling 43 pages in. So we are at the stage now. I'm on the live, so I was just making sure that I hadn't accidentally switched my mic on. We're just at the stage when Bryce is having dinner with Reed. Now, I think that Reed is a jerk. Like, who makes someone that sounds as beautiful as Bryce wait for 45 minutes? And why is Bryce entertaining this guy? Like, he just sounds like a jerk. And Connor has basically declared his undying love to her, and she's just kind of like, we're mates? Like, no. So I don't really know where that's gonna go. I don't really know who I want Bryce to be with, but I do know that I don't want her to be with Reed because he just seems like a jerk. And he seems to be like one of those know-it-all characters as well, and I just really don't bode well with them. But they're sitting, Reed and Bryce are sitting at the table, and then there's some like slurs and stuff happening towards a fae female, and obviously Bryce is half fae, and Reed just kind of like looks up, shakes his head, and then just puts his head back down to the menu and continues reading the menu. Whereas in Bryce's head, she's like, well, Connor would sit there and stand up to these assholes that are calling her these things, like this fae woman, and wouldn't accept it. So it's kind of showing you already the difference between Reed and Connor, that Connor would basically fight for her honour, whereas Reed just doesn't care like where she comes from. And I'm also really sad that Bryce had to make a decision that she had to choose a house that she belonged to, even though she was half and half of two different sides. She basically was forced to choose a half. And that makes me sad because that's already setting up that there's going to be conflict for her between the two sides, and she's going to be stuck in the middle because she's not going to know where to pick. So I'm kind of setting up the scene for that. Well, it's kind of setting up the scene for that, not me setting up the scene. Sarah set up the scene. But yeah, I'm a bit upset with Bryce and Reed's relationship. I don't know why she's chasing him for this sex element. They've only had sex twice. He can't even be bothered like meeting her on time for dinner. There's just so many different elements about Reed that I'm just like, no. So no to Reed, no. And I'm only 47 pages in. Bryce has just got back from a night out of nightclubs and things, and she's taking drugs and she's like hallucinating and stuff. She gets back to her apartment. She has the whole struggle of trying to put the code in, try and get her keys in the door. I feel her. I've been there. I totally understand how that is in a drunken sense, not being able to get your door open. So I totally associated with that moment. But when she gets inside the apartment and she discovers that there's blood, and you don't really know if she's hallucinating or if there actually is blood there, but there is, and then she goes into her room and Danica is on the bed in pieces, and then Connor's at the bottom. I totally thought that her and Connor were maybe going to become a thing because she'd agreed to go on a date with him. But I haven't read far enough to know if Danica and Connor are alive. But I somehow feel like the person that was in prison, I've forgotten his name, who had been let out, I feel like he has come back and basically murdered the whole pack. So is Bryce starting off this story as all of her friends are now dead? Is that what's happening here? So I'm up to part 2, and Bryce has just been told that she's not allowed to come to the sailing, which I'm presuming is Danica's funeral. So like she was put into the witness sort of room, and they were trying to get like the story out of her to find out what happened and like who'd killed the pack. And basically she couldn't speak because she's still got so much of this drugs in her system. And Sabine, the mother of Danica, is like dead against Bryce. I don't know like fully what that whole story is, but she's just basically like, no, I want her dead. My daughter's dead. I want her dead. So I'm not entirely sure what that is about, but I'm sure I'm gonna find out. But yeah, so she's not allowed to Danica's funeral, which is a shame because it was her flatmate and seemed to be like her best friend, and that's kind of awful that she's not being allowed to go to that. But obviously her mother's request has said no. So I'm on part 2 now. Gonna keep reading. I'm on page 91. Yeah, 91 is part 2. So it's a nice fast-paced book. I'm really enjoying it. I do feel like very disheartened at how little the progress seems to be when you're reading stuff this big, but in a day, you know, it's not too bad.
And I did want to read another 100 pages tonight, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not, because we're on the last sprint and there's only 36 minutes left, so have to wait and see. Also, the Connor and Bryce scenario, you are probably all laughing after you watched that at the start, wondering what would happen and develop between them. Well, clearly nothing, because he's dead.
So, I've just got to chapter 15, so I'm on page 165, so I thought I would check in with you guys. So, Rune. Is it pronounced Rune? The Ruhn. I'm going to call him Rune. So, if I'm wrong, please correct me. But yeah, so Rune. He is obviously got the same father as Rune, I believe, or is it the same mother as Bryce? I don't know, but they basically make out that they're distant cousins instead of actually being like siblings. I don't really understand the full reason for that yet, but I'm presuming it's because of the bloodlines and everything with like the king. Is it the king of autumn? The autumn king? Is that what he's called? Anyway, he sounds like a dick anyway, so we don't like him. But Rune, I feel like Rune's going to be a really big part of this story. That's just how I'm feeling. Obviously, there's not any romantic sort of love interest type things, nothing because they're siblings. It's not like a different series. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the pace of this. I feel like it is quite fast paced, even though we're still kind of world building and now we're kind of getting the history of like different families and how the Fae are and how they compare to like others. And I'm just really enjoying it. It's really good. And I'm finding it a bit difficult to keep track of who is who because there are so many characters in this, which obviously it's fantasy, that's how it goes, but I'm just struggling to remember everyone, so I feel like I'm taking a little bit longer to read some of the pages just because I'm trying to process who is who and who is related to who and who's done what. And then the guy that Bryce went to meet to do the handover, the exchange of money for some of the stuff from the gallery, I forget what his name is, but he was horrific. The fact that he thought that Bryce was there basically as like a bonus prize to the stuff that he was buying, like gross. And then he's ended up dead. And obviously he has been killed in the same way as Danica has, and Bryce is now going to be working together with like the 33rd people to try and figure out like who killed him. And it wasn't Philip Briggs, but Philip Briggs was put in prison after Danica and Connor and everyone were murdered because everyone just assumed that it was Philip Briggs because he had all the motive, but it wasn't him. So there can't be a copycat killer because all of the information was not divulged to like the press and stuff, so nobody knows exactly how they were killed. So who was it? I've got a sneaking suspicion that it could quite possibly be like the dad in all this, like the Autumn King. I feel like it's maybe like a little move on his part because he doesn't seem to like wolves, but I don't know if that's just too out there. I mean, we're just gonna have to wait and see, but that's kind of what my assumption just now is. But yeah, just thought I'd check in and kind of give you a little update. I feel like I haven't done a check-in in quite some time, but that's purely because I've just been absorbed in this book and I can't explain it. It's a brilliant time. It's really good. So I'm kind of at the part where Bryce is hanging about with Hunt and Hunt's staying in her apartment, and there's like that sexy flirty kindness between them, but obviously nothing's developing. But they both kind of really annoy each other, but then they've both got a really soft spot for each other, and they're both working with Rune, her brother, who nobody else seems to know that is her brother, to try and find the horn because the horns went missing. So there's this whole thing about the horn only being able to be used by Fae, and they don't know where it is. They're also trying to track like Danica's last steps and last days to try and figure out how she was associated and how she came to be killed. It's really fascinating. It's really good. It's very, very fast paced. I'm really enjoying it. I'm on page 302 now. There's lots of different layers and lots of different things going on, and I'm really liking that. So it's not just like we're following one storyline, we've got multiple ones going on, and like you can kind of see the cogs turning and the pieces kind of coming together, but you're not 100% sure like what it is. The Viper Queen, she a bitch. Like, I don't get any good vibes from the Viper Queen. I don't really understand her. I don't really understand what's going on with her. She just seems really vile, manipulative, and she's got a lot of stuff going on. I feel like she's going to have a bigger part in this book, but we've only sort of been introduced to her and know of her and know that she's horrid, basically. And that's all we've kind of got to. Murder wise, I don't know who killed Danica and everyone. I thought it was maybe the Autumn King, but now I'm like, is it the Autumn King? I don't know. I feel like Rune's got some kind of involvement in it, like the brother. I just feel like he's got like a big part in it. And then the White Raven was bombed. Like the bar that they drank, like the club that they drank in, that was bombed. And Bryce tried to protect Juniper because she obviously didn't want any more of her friends being like hurt and killed. So there's like bombings and everything going on, but Philip Briggs is in prison. So is it a copycat? Is it someone that's like one of his followers that's doing it? There's just so many layers and so much stuff going on. So it's really hard to try and figure out who's done what and who's good and who's bad because there's just so much going on. And that's kind of where I am with it. And we've made good progress. And I'm absolutely loving it. This is still sitting at 5-star for me. Like, absolutely love it. I am putting this out here now. If I've not already said it, I can't remember if I've said it or not. But this is ranking higher than ACOTAR. And I absolutely loved ACOTAR. So that is a bold, bold statement. If you guys know, you know that's a bold statement. But that is my update for up to page 302. So I'm up to the point of the book where it could possibly be Sabine that killed Danica. Like, her own mum killed her to like cover a secret, and the idea is that maybe Danica knew that Sabine had stolen the horn, and so did the like guardsman that was also murdered, because people are just being murdered like left, right, and center. So someone's trying to hide the fact that someone's done something that they shouldn't do. And Sabine, basically, when she came into the interrogation room, like near the start after Danica had died, like the night she had died, Sabine had come in and said that she basically wanted her dead. Like, she wanted Bryce dead. Like, she was not happy at all. She hates Bryce. But we don't fully know, like, why she hates Bryce at this moment in time. I hope that kind of, I'd imagine it will go into it, why she hates Bryce. But yeah, that is kind of where I'm at just now. I could understand why Sabine could do it, like the motive and everything behind it. I don't understand why your own mother would kill your child, but I can understand the motive of it being Sabine. But I also feel like, is it Sabine? Because we're not even like halfway yet. I'm maybe just coming up to halfway, and I don't feel like we would just be given the answer that it was Sabine like straight away. Or is there going to be like a big war and a big event because it's Sabine? I don't know. Everyone seems scared of Sabine as well. So there must be something going on with her. But yeah, I just wanted to pop on and share my thoughts and feelings about Sabine. I get bad vibes from her, but I think we're meant to get bad vibes. Watch. We'll end up loving her at the end of the book or something. We all know how it goes when I do these reading vlogs. I'm on one side with a character and then they turn and it goes tits up. So I don't want to sit here and look like a fool, but I feel like she's bad vibes. I'm at the stage with this book that I'm like, hi, Ziggs. Are Bryce and Hunt gonna get together? Because I am loving the tension between those two. Like, loving it. I really want them to get together. I like the naughty little humor that they have between themselves. Like, they live in a world where those two probably should never end up together. And I like how Bryce is kind of like, if he was any other man, I would have basically climbed him like a tree. But she's like really reserved with Hunt. But I don't know if that's purely just because she is obviously working alongside him for Mika. Mika, I don't really know what's going on. Like, obviously Bryce saved his life. She didn't know that it was him that she saved until she was told. Then was really cross that she was told, and then asked her out on a date and she like dinged him and was like, no thank you. So I feel like Hunt wants to be with Bryce and Bryce wants to be with Hunt and they want to get it on, but I feel like Hunt's not going to do it because of Mika, because obviously he's really powerful, everyone's really scared of him, and it's just kind of like, I just want them to get together. And I feel like I might be being a fool here because I feel like Hunt might be an awful human being. I mean, he's done awful things, like that's his job, that's what he does, but I feel like there's just so much more backstory to him, and I feel like I'm gonna hate him, and I really don't want to hate him, but Sarah J Maas does this to us. She makes us like someone and then everything crumbles around it. So I'm like, what am I meant to think? I don't know. But yeah, I really want that to happen, but I feel like I'm gonna regret saying that. So I've just got to the part where I forget what the monster's called. The clawed thing. Is it the Crystallos? Has basically just bitten down into Hunt's shoulder. And the sprint, like I'm on sprints and there's 37 seconds left until we start speaking, and I'm like, oh my god, I must carry on. Like, I really need to carry on. I'm on page 438. Oh my god, is Hunt gonna be okay? Am I gonna be devastated? Is he gonna die? Like, what's the way to happen? I think Hunt's like my favourite character. I'm probably gonna regret that. But no. So Hunt is alive. The Crystallis, or however you pronounce it, bit into him. A Medway witch came, took all the venom out. The Legion came. Mika came. Everything was good. And then they've just landed on like the rooftop next to where Bryce's house is. And Sabine has appeared. And basically Bryce has turned around and when you fucking killed your daughter, you monster. And Sabine is a character that apparently wears all of her emotions on her sleeve, and she was like shocked that Bryce would even think that she killed her daughter. And also she was like, Bryce turned around and said, you killed your daughter, you stole the horn, like you were trying to undermine Danica, you didn't want her to be the next Prime, like none of that. She just wanted her gone. There was like jealousy connected to it. And Sabine then turned around and said, why would I kill my own daughter? And it was Danica that actually stole the horn. Danica stole it. So Sabine obviously has not killed Danica. I've got a funny feeling that Mika might have a part to do with it, because the Crystallis, after it had been killed, Hunt had said, you know, we're gonna have to take that body back, get it analysed, like try and figure out like who summoned this, like where it's come from. Mika basically had it turned to dust because he didn't want it in the press, he didn't want the papers finding out about it, he just wanted it kept secret. But he got the body turned to stone. Like, could they not have secretly taken that body and had it tested? Like, it's as if he's hiding things, and it's as if Sabine knows that Mika has something to do with this, and she's on like her own rampage to try and find out who killed her daughter. It feels like that is the way it's going. So she doesn't want Bryce and Hunt meddling in it because Sabine is actually trying to deal with it. This is the thought process that I'm having just now. But I feel like Mika's playing a big part in it because he's just hidden evidence that could help prove what's going on. So yeah, that's my thoughts. We're doing good. We're definitely over the halfway mark. And this is a quick read, like page after page after page. It's really fast paced, loving it. It's still sitting at a strong 5 stars for me. So I have not updated for quite some time. I have been reading this book and just like powering through it because there's so much going on. I'm so invested in the story. I'm invested in Bryce. I'm invested in Hunt. And yeah, I need to give you guys an update because I've just been reading and not coming back to you. So a lot's kind of happened. We found out that Danica is quite involved in lots of things that maybe she shouldn't have been. There's things about her and Briggs, for example. Like, she knew the things that Briggs was doing. She's involved in this synth drug that seems to be floating about. Now, synth was mentioned at the beginning by, was it Juniper or Fury, that said to Bryce that she should stay away from it because synth's like really bad stuff. So synth is basically a drug that gives you magical abilities if you do not technically have magical abilities. A Medi-Witches kind of use it for healing type things. So this is kind of floating about, and there seems to be some connection with Danica involving this synth, and Bryce just kind of wants to know what's going on. And I feel like Bryce is going to get really heartbroken because I feel like Danica was into a lot of dark things that Bryce was never made aware of. And I think Hunt's kind of looking to the side of Bryce and thinking exactly that Danica's really involved in this, and Danica really wasn't the person that Bryce believed she was. Obviously, Bryce and Danica were best friends, so in her eyes, like, Danica could do no wrong, but there's obviously quite a lot of involvement here. You have her mum, Sabine, as in Danica's mum, who we found out is not the person that, well, we haven't found out, but basically there's reason to believe that Sabine did not kill her daughter. She was basically trying to protect her because Danica had stolen the horn. So there's all of that sort of storyline going on as well. I just got to the part where there's so much tension between Hunt and Bryce, by the way. I know I am not the only person reading it just being like, come on, let's make fuck. Basically, that is a thought and feeling that is going through my head quite regularly with them. I feel like we're not going to get it, which makes me really sad because Hunt is very much so like, he's very professional, like he does his job, but like he's flirty and like he can sense when she's feeling the sexy things, which is hilarious because Hunt must be so smug feeling, thinking she's thinking about me naked, but he's so professional in the way that he's not doing anything about it. That reminds me of the scene where Hunt had to go out and basically like kill people, and he came home and, well, he came back to Bryce's and he was like covered in blood, and he didn't expect Bryce to be waiting in the hallway, and she was. And the scene where she found him in the shower, just like on the floor in the shower, where she like washed him and like dressed him and put him to bed, and he like put out his hand and wanted her to stay, that scene really hit me in the feels. Like, that is maybe my favorite scene of that, because it shows how much Hunt doesn't want to do the bad things that he does, but obviously he has to do it because he's got a debt to pay. And it was so heartbreaking because it was like he just switched off from everything and gave up on everything and just had to feel all the hurt that he had basically just given out. And Bryce basically knew what he needed and just did everything for him, and that was such a sweet gesture, and I really loved that part of the story. And then there's been another part that I've just got up to. I've literally just read this chapter. So the Medi-Witch is needing, obviously, the Crystallo's venom. So Bryce obviously has, I've said obviously too many times, Bryce has the injury on her leg that she refuses to get healed. Her mother and everyone and Hunt were all trying to get her to go to an appointment to get this removed, but this Medi-Witch is investigating Synth and needs this venom for her research. So Bryce, because her wound wasn't healed, she knew that there was probably still venom inside that. Now, this leg injury has hurt since day one, but she has kept it as like a memory, so she'll never forget Danica and the pack. But she has decided to get it removed purely for the Medi-Witch to be able to do this research. So the scene that I've just read is the one when the Medi-Witch is removing this. So she opens up the wound that Hunt had stapled together on the night that it happened and basically left this gnarly looking scar, for which he is so upset that she has been walking about with this really ugly looking scar, because he is the one who just, when it happened, tried to get the bleeding to stop, so just stapled it up as quickly as he could and left it looking gross. But in Hunt's eyes, he probably thought she's going to go to a Medi-Witch and get that fixed. But she didn't. She carried that pain around with her for 2 years. So she's just had the venom removed, which sounded like the most painful experience. And Hunt has looked in her eyes the whole time, said that he's there for her, that he's got her, and not to worry, and that it's almost over. And it was honestly one of the cutest scenes. Like, their bond and their relationship is just so sweet. Even though I feel like it's a relationship that's not going to blossom into anything, I feel like Sarah J. Maas likes to build up this type of thing, and then she's either going to make Hunt this awful bastard, or someone else is going to come along, or someone's going to be killed off, because that's what she does. She builds up this thing, makes you fall in love with people, and then just shits on it. So I have this feeling that Hunt and Bryce are not going to be the ship that I want to ship, I feel. And I feel like I'm going to sit here and be a fool. But we're getting so close to the end, and I'm like, what is going on? And I don't know what characters are in the second book, but I really want them to get together, and I feel like it's not going to happen. But yeah, this has been a rambling update of some of the things that I have really enjoyed. So I'm going to do some more reading. So the scene where Hunt gets his wings cut off, that is horrendous. Like, just because he went up to, what was her name again? Is it Amber? The, like, alpha of the pack, and Sabine was furious that Hunt had went up to her and had her up against the wall and was basically saying how shit a person she was because they hadn't remembered that it was Danica's birthday, and they should have, and it's so disrespectful. And Bryce seems to be the only one that is carrying that kind of love for Danica, and like, they're part of a pack. Like, that should be their number one thing. They should be remembering soldiers that have like went down. But Sabine was furious and basically said to Mika, like, this is unacceptable. Like, Hunt needs to be punished for his actions. So Hunt basically gets his wings cut off, and Bryce is brought there so that Bryce can watch it as well. She's just had surgery to get that venom removed from her leg. She can barely stand. Hunt basically had to fly her over there, which is a privilege that he now no longer has. But what's fascinating is the fact that his wings are going to grow back, but the stages for his wings to grow back sound horrendous. So that scene was fucking awful, and Sabine is a horrible human being. She is raging at Bryce because Bryce made that deal of, she wanted Danica to be in, is it the bone chamber? She wanted her to basically live in the afterlife in the Hall of Honor in a way. And Bryce basically swapped her place and said that Danica could take her place so that Danica could always be in the hall. And now Bryce will never obviously be allowed in any of the halls of honor, and basically will just float about when she dies, because she wanted to make sure that Danica had it, which means that she also believes that Danica didn't die in honor, and that there's lots of things going on with Danica, and that possibly like she wouldn't have gone there. So Bryce gave her her place. So Sabine's furious at that, because Sabine said that she shouldn't have went there, like she didn't die in honor. Like, it's just awful. And then the whole thing where Bryce was trying to hack into Danica's login, and then she finally figured out that the password was what had been on Danica's jacket this whole time, and Bryce had tattooed on her. And then she found the flash drive hidden in the L of the jacket. And then her and Hunt watched the videos, and it's basically of a human being given the synth drug and then tearing apart people. Like, what on earth is going on? So Danica obviously knew like lots of information. And then Bryce wanted to go back to the apartment that she used to live in to try and find clues. She gets there and the house is on fire. So somebody knows that she is logged into that computer. Somebody is trying to cover up that track, so they just thought, fuck it, let's just set it on fire. So that happened. Then Hunt is back at the apartment, at Bryce's apartment. Bryce has been looking after him and caring for him, and he's been in and out of consciousness. And Jessica, her boss, is basically just like, you need to come into work, you're not getting any time off, you're not looking after him, like, get in here. So Rune then has to go over and look after him, and he is disgusted by all the blood and everything that surrounds Hunt, because obviously his wings have been cut off. And then there is a beautiful smutty moment that I was not expecting in this book with Bryce and Hunt, and wow, that was amazing. And it got ruined by the fact that Hunt has just had his wings cut off and there is blood spurting out of his back. So Bryce basically stops the sexy time. They weren't actually having sex at this point. There was just a lot of foreplay that was going on, and that tension build up was incredible. top tier. Sarah J Maas kills it every time. And Bryce then obviously calls the Merry Witch and is like, he needs to be seen to. And the Merry Witch is like, he's okay. And before she leaves, Hunt turns around to the Merry Witch and says, so I just want to ask, like, will it be okay for me to, like, have sex? And the Merry Witch turns around and says, I would advise that you don't really try and have sex until you have grown your wings back. And there's still several weeks until he has to grow his wings back. And basically Bryce turns around and goes, cool, that's fine, let's close that book for just now. So yes, I was pleasantly surprised by that. But I'm going to continue reading because I'm very immersed in it. It's, for being such a long book, it is such a quick read. Like, you're just turning the pages and turning the pages because you just want to know what's happening next. I have no idea who is killing everyone. Literally no idea. I have suspicions left, right, and centre. I feel like Mika is covering up a lot of things. Sabine is horrible, but I don't think she's going about killing people. There's still that storyline of, like, the horn being found, but that kind of went to the sidelines a little bit, whereas Hunt is trying to get Bryce to focus on getting the horn because he feels like that kind of pieces everything together. But Bryce is so focused on the synth side of things that the horn side has kind of went to the wayside. But so much is going on. It's so fast paced and amazing. It's high 5 stars. It is one of my favorite books I have ever read so far. And I feel like I'm going to be really angry at the end of this book, but I'm just going to have to wait and see. I feel like I'm going to finish this book today. I feel like I'm just going to binge the hell out of it and finish it. But we will wait and see. But yes, this was a long update, but had a lot to update you on. And I am loving this. Loving it. So the drug deal's just going down with, like, the Viper Queen, and Hunt's there. And Bryce is looking at the side like, what the F is going on? And then everything just kind of comes out. So what the fuck? Danica was selling the synth. She basically leaked it, was selling it, and she was addicted to it apparently. And this whole time, Hunt knew. Hunt knew about the synth. He knew how Danica, like, took this stuff, the synth stuff, basically went crazy and, like, slaughtered her own pack. And we saw in the videos that the human that slaughtered all the people then kind of, like, ripped themselves to shreds. So that's obviously what's happened with Danica. But that doesn't fully explain the crystallos, like the demon type things that are come from the black obsidian. Like, I don't understand that element of it, which makes me think there's more to this. But I knew I was gonna hate Hunt. Like, I knew this was gonna happen. I felt like this was gonna happen. I felt like I was gonna sit here and be a fool because he had to have a big part of it. I knew Mika knew a lot about it, and it really frustrates me the fact that Hunt knew all of this stuff going on, and yet he still chose to be intimate with Bryce. It's kind of like his feelings for Bryce kind of overpowered it. But, like, how could he have lived his life and lived in that close proximity to her and just not told her that that's what happened? Why watch her suffer and go through all this pain to try and figure it out herself? Like, there must be a reason on Hunt's side, surely. Like, he can't just be a dick. Like, surely that can't be it. Or is it? Is that the simple thing that it's coming down to, that Hunt is just a dick and I just refuse to accept that Hunt is a dick? Wow. Just wow. So Hunt was obviously trying to buy the synth because he decided that he wanted to, like, overthrow the debt that he was owed and didn't want to have it anymore and wanted to get rid of Mika and everybody that had done this awful, like, things to him. But obviously this was all sort of announced to Bryce, and she literally had to stand there and have her heart, like, ripped to shreds and broken in front of all of these people. But they get put, well, Hunt gets put into a cell, and then I want to say Justina, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, and Victoria, they are put onto a screen so that Hunt can basically see them be tortured, which, you know, it makes sense. But then Hunt's been put in a cell, like, why is he not being tortured? Why is that sort of stuff not happening to him? But then we find out there's a bigger thing for him. So basically Sandral, if I'm pronouncing any of these wrong, I apologize, but Sandral basically wants to buy Hunt back. and torture him in all the horrific ways that she did previously. So that's just happened, and as he's being marched out to basically the armoured van where he's going to be taken away back to Sandrel's place and live out the rest of his life being tormented and horrible things happening to him, Bryce runs there because Fury had mentioned that this had happened to Hunt and this was what was happening. So Bryce basically ran to this section of area that this was happening in and came with a check for like millions of gold to basically say, I will buy Hunt. And Sandra basically laughed at her. And then Bryce decided she was going to give up her freedom for Hunt. So she wanted to take Hunt's place basically and wanted the Sandra to take her so that she could live in this life of horror. And then Rune appeared and was basically like, no, that's not allowed to happen. The Sandal then dropped the bomb that Bryce and Rune are siblings. Obviously, it's always been drawn out that they were cousins. Hunt's hearing this. Hunt obviously has a lot of things going on. He doesn't want Bryce to give up her life, but then he finds out that Rune's her brother. So Rune basically bypasses anything that Bryce says and says, because she is part of the, like, she is the Autumn King's offspring, that she cannot be taken away, she cannot be traded. So Bryce is then taken away, taken away from them, kicking and screaming, basically like begging to get Hunt, and says that she's never going to give up. And Hunt turns around and just kind of says, please don't come looking for me. But Bryce says no matter what she does, she's going to get him. So what's going to happen? I really don't know. We don't have a lot left. I feel like Hunt did say he was going to back out of the deal. I think that as his relationship between him and Bryce kind of got more in depth, shall we say, I think his priorities changed slightly, but I think he still wanted to rid everybody of the debts that they were owed in the Archangels because he wanted to live this normal life with Bryce. So it was a selfish movement, but at the same time he wanted the people that were suffering to get the same thing. Like, he wanted everyone to have their freedom, but he wanted his freedom just so he could like make breakfast and hang out with like Bryce and just live the most normal life. I think as well when he was in the cell and the Sandra basically showed on the screen all of the photos of them, of him and Bryce together, and like how her eyes changed from being like really cold and like shut off, and like the whole time that they spent together he just saw like this glow and this brightness coming to her. And the fact that he basically shat on that and ruined it basically, because that's what he did, he ruined it, he fucked everything. But she still in her heart is like, I need to save him, I need to help him. But we don't really know like how she feels. Like, does she love him? Like, she must love him because she was going to give up her life for him. So she was going to give up her life for Hunt. Then what was Hunt going to do? Just live his best life? Like, I don't know what was going to go on there, but I'm just at a chapter, I just finished a chapter, and basically there's like a chrysalis thing just a way to jump on her. So I'm going to go back to reading and find out what's the way to happen with that, because its jaws were basically coming at her. Well, shit has gone down. So Mika is the one that is responsible for all of this. I knew he was a dick, I knew it. So he was the one that figured out who had the horn. He wanted the horn. The horn is embedded in Bryce's tattoo. Like, I did not see that coming. That was a nice little touch, Sarah J. Maas. So that's all happened, and then he put Shrinks, if that's how you pronounce it, into the tank with a Nox. Like, what? I thought Shrinks was a goner. Genuinely thought it's game over, and I was tearing up, and it was really sad and emotional. But I've just got to the stage where Bryce was given that time because, oh, I've forgotten her name. What is her name again? I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong. Lehaba, the little pixie fairy type sprite, just basically gave up her life to give Bryce that extra additional time to get that rifle, and she's just shot Mika. Like, is he dead? What's going to happen? I'm getting so close to the end. It's intense, and I'm going to continue reading because I really need to know what's happening here. But a lot happened, and my emotions are all over the place right now. My final thoughts and feelings about Crescent City. So I've just stayed up quite late to finish this. 5 stars. But it all got a bit wild. So when Bryce is like starborn, is that what it was classed as? When she basically has all this light and she can light it up, and then Danica appeared, and Danica helped her like seal all the gates, because all the gates of hell basically opened, and Bryce had to try and close them, and she had the ability to close them with her starlight. So she was trying to do that, and then Hunt was injured. He took the impact of like a blast that was coming from missiles that Sandrel had like ordered out, and yeah, there was just so much going on. And Mika was sliced in half, and Sandrel was killed by Hunt because he was set free, so he was able to do that, which was great because I feel like he really needed that. And then Bryce just fought and fought and fought and fought, and I can't believe Danica was there. Like, that was something that I really didn't expect. And then she had to make the drop, but no one thought she was going to make the drop. She had 6 minutes to basically go back to her body, and the 6 minutes had passed and she hadn't come back, and I was like, oh my god, Bryce is dead. I thought Hunt had died, but no, everything was okay. But then all of that had sorted, and then Jezebel at the end with Aedis, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, they're doing like some bargaining. He's got something to do with hell. What on earth is that about? Yeah, I don't know. And what, Bryce and Hunt are just gonna live like their best lives? Like, is that what's gonna happen now? So many thoughts, so many feelings, and yes, I am gonna start book 2 because I absolutely am. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this spoiler vlog of my process of reading Crescent City. It is a 5-star and one of my top favourite books that I've ever read. It's action-packed. It tugs at your heartstrings, as Say Does Your Maas does. You think one thing's happening and then something totally different happens. You think someone's about to die and then everything's okay, or you think everything's going to be okay and then someone dies. It's just full of surprises, twists and turns. So yes, I will be doing another one of these for House of Sky and Breath, which is the second in the series. So I will see you for that once I have read that mammoth book. Thanks for watching. Bye.